I think growing up and even like into my early adult life, I always kind of put on different hats depending on what kind of group and community I was with. If I were with a group of Asian friends, it's just a different dynamic versus like going to a predominantly white school for most of my childhood. I put on a different hat, always in a sense of like trying to belong wherever I am, but never really blending any of the worlds together. My name is Harmon Li. I am based out of Austin, Texas, born in Lubbock, Texas. That's where my parents got into grad school as Hong Kong immigrants. And so when you're an immigrant, you just gotta take where you're accepted. I lived in Hong Kong like my early childhood years. And then once we moved back to Texas, I spent almost every summer in Hong Kong. There's something about creating something or having something that you envision in your mind, and then to somehow manipulate whether it's sound or light. There's something that you're working with. And once you're even remotely close to it, or if you kind of nail it and you get the results back and you see, and it's kind of what you envision in your head, there's just that feeling, that dopamine rush, whatever you want to call it, there's just like, it clicks and you're like, oh, damn, that's amazing. And you kind of crave more of that. I had done music for so long that there comes a certain point, or I came to a certain point where I wasn't even sure like what my voice was within that. I would play things really comfortably. I kind of wanted to try my voice in something else and see what is my voice in photography. This is during the pandemic where a lot of people were kind of just reevaluating things for themselves. It might be time to try to change something about me. There's a certain like restlessness that was kind of growing, and just wanting to what's holding me back from really kind of letting that energy that was building inside to kind of just let it go and see kind of what really drove me. Like, that seems worth trying out and seeing. And I mentioned at the time, like I had done more like landscape stuff where there weren't really many people involved in my images and so forth. There's this whole other realm of photography that I haven't really kind of let myself try out. And I just kind of looked at myself and like, what? Damn it. If not now, when? Just suck it up, have some courage to go out and approach people and see if can I take their portraits, while doing it in a way where hopefully my goal is to take it in a way that tells who they are in a realistic manner, as realistic as possible, and yet also showing forth their beauty in whatever facet that they are in the moment, or whether it's inner. And I am still putting in the hours to try to how to approach photography and portrait photography, because it's a lot of interacting with people and kind of reading their energy, and then you also contributing. So I really like that collaboration in that sense of where a good portrait is only made, in my view, when you're able to work with one another to bring out that person's, voice and their essence and how they look. And so that's kind of what I've been working towards. And I find a lot of joy in that creativity. That's to see if that could be something in my voice. For me, my neighbors have always hung out outside. That's kind of just their thing to do. It's for them, I kind of joke, it's happy hour for them 24/7, which is great, but it's just fun. So I kind of took that as an opportunity to just kind of take the time to walk around and start photographing people there. I've never known neighbors like this. And it's just so counter narrative of what you hear of like nowadays, that you don't really interact with neighbors and so forth. Like you might just kind of give a hi or whatever. I love that that's not the case on our street, that they've really shown me honestly how to be a better neighbor than I could ever be. And so with this thing that I'm doing now, where I'm always just kind of walking up and down the street with a camera and tripod, I hope I can just kind of give back in some little way. You have something in your mind, but you're not sure until you get that scan back and you just look at it and you're just like, yeah. I feel like I'm playing catch up in some sense, because I am approaching this like changing careers a little later on, my age. And so I just feel like I I have a lot to soak up, a lot to take in. Me being of a first generation Asian, they didn't come with much. It only isn't recently my dad just kind of casually mentioned that they came over with $1,300 and that's it in their pockets, you know. And it's just like when he just so casually just kind of stated that in conversation, and I was just like, what? You never mentioned that before? Like that's crazy. I think there's a lot of that innate expectation that I kind of put on myself. You know, I hope I can do something that, because they honestly, they work so hard to give their kids an opportunity to do what we want to do. And that's like, it's really hard to fathom. It's just a weight, unfortunately, whether it's placed on myself or society and what people think of it or whatever, you know, it is inward focused. And so me having already done a non-traditional job like music for so long, and now changing to another that's not a typical, you know, like a 9-to-5, whatever you want to call it. I just kind of want to make sure that like, hey, I'm going to try my hardest at it and see where it goes, hoping that, you know, it's something that is honorable, at least, I'll use that word, to what they were hoping to do, you know, for their kids. I think that's one way I can show my appreciation, is to at least, if I'm going to at least do this, I'm at least going to give it my damn best try, you know. The work that I'm trying to do in Hong Kong, and then the work that I'm trying to do for myself here in the States, you know, specifically like in my neighborhood or in town, I'm trying to find like a commonality. And I think the best way to do that is through portraiture work, environmental portraiture work like we do. You can clearly and visibly see that these are not the same places. And yet, when you look at the faces and the images and kind of what's being evoked in the portraits, that is still the same. Their humanness, wherever they're at, whether it be their own sense of belonging or lack thereof, or sense of joy or comfort where they are, that still rings true. Those are still messages that kind of transcend oceans in that sense. And so I hope I can kind of bring that. I say that, but I'm still working towards it. I feel like this is all like a work in progress. But I feel like at least it's a good starting point that I can kind of go from there. Me being an Asian American, living in Austin, Texas, feeling like maybe for the first time in the past 2-3 years, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of done trying to juggling hats between the communities that I'm a part of and the friends that I'm in. Like, why can't I just have the same face and same person whoever I'm with? And then from that kind of connection, we're like, well, I kind of want that reflected in wherever I live and wherever I consider home. That sense of belonging, that I don't need to juggle hats, that I can just be. So I just wanted to hopefully take portraits of my neighbors and people that I meet in Hong Kong and family that kind of reflect that you know, there is that sense of belonging, and that they're reflection of like the care that they've given me as neighbors, that if I'm going to take their picture, that hopefully that's just a little tiny bit of the same care that I can give back. I consider Hong Kong my home. I consider Austin my home. They're both very different, and I love both. Just knowing a lot more of who I am as a person now and as an Asian American, and just having honestly like just more pride of my upbringing, and just like, you know, this is who I am.